Welcome back to CrimePod Castle. It's episode 88 of our Unsolved Mystery series. And today, we're diving deep into a case that's equal parts perplexing and poignant.
Yeah.
It's the disappearance of Subodh Verma.
Subodh Verma was a social worker in Lucknow, India, a tireless advocate, a husband, a father.
Right.
And then one day in 2004, he simply vanished.
So he was known for this fearless advocacy for the underprivileged.
Yes.
He took on corruption, fought for labor rights.
Absolutely.
But could this dedication have made him some enemies?
It's very possible.
Was his disappearance connected to his activism, or is there something else at play?
Right.
I think that's what we're going to try to unpack today, right?
Yes, absolutely.
I think before we get into the nitty-gritty of, the actual disappearance itself, it's important to kind of understand the kind of man that Subodh was.
Absolutely. So he was described by those who knew him as absolutely fearless, deeply committed to his work, and not afraid to challenge those in power.
So he wasn't exactly playing it safe.
No, not at all.
Especially in a system where we know that corruption can be really deeply entrenched.
Exactly. And his work exposing that corruption and advocating for better labor rights, really put him in a precarious position. I mean, he was a thorn in the side of some very influential individuals.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, we've talked about his activism, but what about his personal life?
Yeah.
What was he like outside of all that?
Well, Subodh was a devoted family man, a loving husband and father. In fact, the day that he disappeared, July 15th, 2004, he was supposed to celebrate his wedding anniversary with his wife.
Oh.
He left home that morning for a meeting with some labor union leaders, promising to be back for dinner, but he never returned.
He just never came home. So, did anyone actually see him leave for that meeting?
It seems he left as usual. There were no signs of a struggle at his home, and his family, initially believed he was just delayed. But as the hours passed and he didn't answer his phone, their worry turned into panic.
Yeah.
They contacted the labor union, but Subodh had never arrived at the meeting.
So at what point did the police get involved?
The police were called that evening. I mean, it was unlike Subodh to just disappear, especially with his anniversary celebration plan.
Right.
And so the investigation started immediately.
What were some of the initial steps that they took?
Well, the first major lead came when Subodh's car was found. Abandoned on the outskirts of the city.
So they found his car. Was there anything at the scene that, indicated foul play? Was there anything?
Yeah, that's the strange part. The car was neatly parked. The doors were locked. Nothing was missing.
Wow.
There was no sign of a struggle, no sign of forced entry. It was almost as if he had just voluntarily left it there, which only deepened the mystery.
His car was just left there.
Yeah. It's a puzzle.
It's a puzzle, yeah. That certainly adds another layer of complexity to this whole case.
Yeah.
So what did investigators do next?
Well, they started by interviewing anyone who might have had contact with Subodh in the days leading up to his disappearance. Family, friends, colleagues, anyone who could offer any insight into his routine or state of mind.
Right.
Anything at all that might help them understand what had happened.
So did these interviews turn up anything useful? Any clues as to where he might have gone, who might have been involved?
Well, a few things came to light. One witness, a farmer, claimed to have seen a man matching Subodh's description. Talking to two unidentified individuals near where the car was found.
Interesting.
But his description was vague, and he couldn't provide many details.
So a possible sighting, but not much to go on.
Right.
Did anything else emerge from those interviews?
Yes, actually something quite disturbing. It came to light that Subodh had been receiving threats.
Threats?
Anonymous threats.
That's certainly concerning.
Yeah.
Do we know what they were about? Were they related to his work?
It seems they were directly connected to his activism. Specifically his work to expose labor exploitation.
Right.
The threats were vague, but menacing enough to cause concern.
Yeah, I bet. It's starting to sound like his work might have made him some powerful enemies.
It's possible.
Did investigators look into any specific individuals or organizations that might have wanted to silence him?
They explored every possible angle. They looked into potential financial motives, including conflicts with individuals that Subodh had exposed for corruption. But there wasn't any concrete evidence to support those leads.
So they've got this missing person, an abandoned car, a possible sighting, anonymous threats, and no clear indication of what happened.
Yeah, it's a tough one.
Where did the investigation go from there? What were some of the main theories that they started working with?
Well, the complete lack of physical evidence was the biggest challenge. Subodh's phone was never recovered. His wallet was missing. There were no fingerprints, no DNA, nothing to suggest a struggle or a crime scene. It's as if he vanished into thin air.
So with such limited information, they had to really rely on speculation.
Yeah.
And piecing together the few clues that they had.
Right.
What were some of the primary theories that they developed to try and explain Subodh's disappearance?
So it's like trying to solve a puzzle, but half the pieces are missing.
Yeah.
So let's dive into some of these theories that investigators were considering.
All right.
You mentioned anonymous threats related to his activism.
Right.
Was a targeted abduction, like a strong possibility?
It was definitely a leading theory. I mean, given the nature of his work, those threats, it's not hard to imagine someone deciding to silence him permanently.
Yeah, especially considering how you were saying that he was, so outspoken and not afraid to really, push back on these powerful figures.
Right, yeah.
But if this was a planned abduction, wouldn't there be some trace, some evidence? You would think that's the perplexing part. If someone wanted to abduct him, they did an incredibly clean job.
Yeah.
No witnesses beyond that vague farmer's account, no ransom demands, no communication. It suggests a level of planning and execution that's unsettling, to say the least.
Yeah. It's almost like they wanted him to simply vanish.
Yeah.
To create the impression that he might have left willingly.
Right.
Which brings us to another theory you mentioned earlier, voluntary disappearance.
Yeah.
What led investigators to consider this possibility?
Well, as we discussed, Subodh was under immense pressure. The constant threats, the risks associated with his work, the potential danger to himself and his family. It's conceivable that he just felt overwhelmed and chose to go into hiding.
But wouldn't he have contacted his family if that were the case?
You would think.
Especially his wife on their anniversary, to at least let them know he was safe.
Right. That's the biggest hole in that theory. Those close to Subodh found it very hard to believe he would intentionally disappear without a word, especially on such an important day.
Yeah.
He was dedicated to his family, and it just seems very out of character for him to inflict that kind of worry and uncertainty on them.
It's tough to reconcile. What about the possibility of random crime?
Yeah.
Could he have been the victim of, like, a robbery or carjacking gone wrong?
It's a theory that always has to be considered in a missing persons case.
Right.
However, the lack of evidence makes it less likely here.
Okay.
The car was found untouched. There were no signs of a struggle.
Right.
His personal belongings were never found. This doesn't really fit the usual pattern of a typical street crime.
It's almost like the scene was too clean, too staged.
Yeah, it's suspicious.
So let's talk about the final theory, the political retaliation. What evidence pointed investigators in this direction?
Well, we know that Subodh's work often put him in direct conflict with powerful political figures. He wasn't afraid to expose corruption and demand accountability, which likely made him a target for those who benefited from the status quo.
So the idea is that someone with political clout, someone who felt threatened by Subodh's work, decided to just get rid of him.
Exactly.
Wow.
And sadly, this is not uncommon, for activists and whistleblowers, especially those challenging, powerful entities, to face danger and intimidation. In some cases, they even disappear without a trace.
It's a disturbing thought, but one that can't be ignored, given the circumstances.
I agree.
What makes this theory so difficult to investigate, though?
Well, proving political retaliation is incredibly challenging.
Okay.
These acts are often shrouded in secrecy. They're carried out with a level of deniability that's hard to crack, even if there were suspicions.
Yeah.
Obtaining concrete evidence to link individuals or organizations to Subodh's disappearance would be extremely difficult.
Yeah, it sounds like a situation where power and influence can be used to really obstruct justice.
Absolutely.
So we have these four theories, each with its own set of complexities, unanswered questions. It must be incredibly frustrating for investigators. And, of course, for Subodh's family.
Absolutely. For his family, this isn't just an unsolved mystery. It's the agonizing absence of a loved one.
Right.
The constant uncertainty about his fate.
Yeah.
The not knowing, the lack of closure, that's the hardest part to bear.
And for the community that he served, his disappearance is a stark reminder, right, of the risks associated with speaking truth to power. It's a reminder that the fight for justice can be dangerous.
Yeah.
That those who challenge the status quo often face, really serious consequences.
It's true. Subodh's case, while tragic, also highlights the vital importance of protecting those who stand up for what they believe in. Those who dare to challenge the powerful and advocate for the vulnerable. Their voices are essential, and their safety should be paramount.
It's a sobering thought. But amid all the darkness and the uncertainty, is there anything positive that's emerged from Subodh's story?
I think so. His dedication to justice, his unwavering commitment to those less fortunate, continues to inspire countless others.
Yeah.
Even though he's gone, his legacy lives on in the work of those he inspired. Those who carry on the fight for a more just and equitable society.
It's a powerful reminder that even in the face of tragedy, hope can endure.
Absolutely.
And even though we may never know what happened to Subodh, his story serves as a testament to the courage and resilience of the human spirit.
I think so too.
It's also a call to action.
It is.
A reminder that we must never stop seeking justice, that we must never be silenced by fear or intimidation.
Yeah.
We must continue to speak truth to power, to hold those in authority accountable.
I agree.
And to fight for a world where people like Subodh can do their vital work without fear of reprisal.
Absolutely.
Well said. We've covered a lot of ground today, but there are still so many unanswered questions surrounding Subodh's disappearance.
Yeah.
I think in our final segment, we'll explore some of those lingering questions and discuss what, if anything, could be done to finally bring some closure to this case. As we kind of wrap up our deep dive into Subodh Verma's disappearance, I keep coming back to this lack of closure, especially for his family. Have there been any attempts to reopen the case or to pursue new leads in recent years?
Oh, absolutely. There have been numerous calls for a reinvestigation over the years.
Okay.
Both from Subodh's family and from various human rights organizations. They believe that with a fresh perspective and with, advancements in forensic technology, there might be new avenues to explore.
That makes sense that they wouldn't give up hope.
Right.
What about the authorities? Have they shown any willingness to, revisit the case at all?
Officially, the case remains open, but whether there's any active investigation happening is unclear. There's often a gap between acknowledging a case and actually dedicating the resources needed for a thorough reinvestigation.
And that's got to be incredibly frustrating, right?
Oh, for sure.
For everyone who wants answers. It feels like a case like this, with so many unanswered questions, potential leads, it deserves a relentless pursuit of the truth.
I completely agree. And for Subodh's family, that lack of closure is an ongoing burden.
Yeah.
They deserve answers. They deserve to know what happened to their loved one.
And they deserve justice if foul play was involved.
Yeah.
But even if we never uncover the truth about what happened to Subodh, his story remains a powerful reminder, doesn't it?
It certainly does. It reminds us of the importance of speaking truth to power, of advocating for those who are marginalized and oppressed, of fighting for what's right even when it's dangerous.
It also highlights the human cost of corruption and the need for greater transparency and accountability, especially in these systems where power can be so easily abused.
Absolutely.
Subodh's disappearance, regardless of the cause, really underscores the risks that activists and whistleblowers face.
It does.
And it also underscores the need for better protection and support for those who dare to challenge the status quo.
I agree.
It's a stark reminder that the fight for justice can be perilous, and that we must all do our part to ensure that those who speak truth to power are not silenced or forgotten.
Very well said. Subodh's story is a call to action for each of us. We must continue to demand justice, to shine a light on corruption, to create a world where people like Subodh can do their vital work without fear of reprisal.
And it's a call to remember Subodh, not just for his tragic disappearance, but for his life.
Yes.
His work, his unwavering dedication to making the world a better place. His legacy lives on, in the hearts of those he touched and in the countless lives he impacted through his tireless advocacy.
His story, while shrouded in mystery, serves as an inspiration to us all. It reminds us to never give up the fight for what is right.
Yeah.
To never be silenced in the face of injustice. And to always remember those who have been lost in the pursuit of a better world.
Well, that brings us to the end of this episode of CrimePod Castle. We've explored the life and disappearance of Subodh Verma, a man who dedicated his life to fighting for justice and who vanished under these mysterious circumstances. We may never know exactly what happened to him, but his story continues to resonate, reminding us of the importance of courage, integrity, and the relentless pursuit of truth.
And if Subodh's case has sparked your interest in the world of social activism and the challenges faced by those who challenge the status quo, I encourage you to delve deeper. There are countless stories of courage and resilience out there, stories that deserve to be heard and remembered.
And as always, we want to hear from you, our listeners. If you have any thoughts or theories about Subodh Verma's disappearance, please share them with us on our social media channels. We'd love to hear your perspectives.
And if you enjoyed this deep dive into this unsolved mystery, don't forget to subscribe to CrimePod Castle and share this episode with your friends. There are many more captivating stories waiting to be explored, and we look forward to sharing them with you.
Until next time, stay curious, stay safe, and as always, keep seeking the truth.